Hey guys, it's John. So today, early in the morning, an anonymous 4chan user leaked his statement regarding the next two Assassin's Creed games, which I'll post on screen now and read for you here. The statement reads as follows. France, AC is coming in early 2022, or the fiscal year of 2021, set during the Hundred Years' War and will be a dark fantasy take on the setting. Massive battles and huge castles. Darkest and grittiest AC yet. Sieges from Valhalla are completely overhauled, as is stealth and freerunning. Game was internally delayed due to COVID, but is smaller than the past few games. It's a budget title by Toronto, and meant to hold over until China in 2023. Now I haven't looked at the thread myself, but first off, do I think this is fake? Yeah, probably. This way I won't create any false expectations. With that out of the way, let's discuss and speculate on this, just for fun. I'll be avoiding logistical analysis on the validity of the leak as a whole, and instead assume that the leak is real for the sake of speculation. With that said, let's talk. First, the setting and potential story threads. Medieval France during the Hundred Years' War is thick with both combat and politics, which sounds like the perfect place for the Brotherhood to get involved. In fact, according to AC lore, they very much were involved in the protection of one Saint Joan of Arc. According to the novel Assassin's Creed Heresy, Joan of Arc possessed an extraordinarily high concentration of precursor or Isu DNA, allowing her to harness the power of the Sword of Eden, the very same sword used by Germain and Arnaud Dorian in AC Unity. That seems like a perfect way to set up the events of that game, and perhaps even to see what happened to the Templar Order after its collapse in the early 14th century. Maybe we'll see more of the badass French assassin Brotherhood with their black Levantine-inspired robes, or even some more of Jacques de Molay. But mostly, that comes down to the writing. Of course, Darby McDevitt is an excellent writer and narrative director, having worked on Revelations and AC4 in a leading role, and I can only assume he'd have some sort of large role in the narrative direction for any subsequent AC games, unless Ubisoft drops the ball after Valhalla, which is wholly possible considering the statement about dark fantasy, which kind of frightens me. Odyssey sank far too deep into the fantasy genre, and while Valhalla is much better about defining what is reality and what is fantastical, AC is a science fiction franchise at its core, and taking that away for, say, Isu dragons or something completely off the rails, just no, please. On that, I want to discuss potential gameplay. The cool potential for a game set in this era is that the Templars are actually in pieces right now thanks to the purging of the Order in the early 14th century, like I said. I'd find it interesting to play as a Templar again, and like a proper Templar this time, not an assassin turned Templar like Shay, where the Brotherhood was incompetent anyway. Here the assassins would actually be at the height of their power, and the Templars would be pulling strings and regrouping underground. I've always liked the idea of a lowly foot soldier demonstrating immense talent or skill, and being inducted into the Order to hunt assassins or even put down corruption in the Order. That'd be super important, as the Templars would be really weak right now, and one mole would probably wipe them out. Or maybe you'd be a Black Cross, a Templar who is pulling those strings and controlling the events of the war. I think the Templar idea is very likely, because according to the leak, things like large-scale battles and sieges are making a return, leading me to believe that you might actually be a knight commanding a smaller unit, or engaging in tactical advances on the enemy structures. And besides, assassins wouldn't really be engaging in large-scale battles at this point, since Altair had kind of disbanded that whole concept. Maybe make advances on the weapon system, which I think was already rather decent in Valhalla but could certainly use tweaking. Stealth and parkour will be getting an overhaul, which I think is important as well. The social stealth in Valhalla worked to some extent, but I actually found it somewhat finicky and imprecise, so polishing that up would help a lot. Same with the parkour system. The amount of freedom the game offered is still hindered by the onboard limitations of the current state of the engine in Valhalla. Movement still isn't as snappy and responsive as I would like, so improving that and breathing new life into, say, rooftop traversal, I think that would help a lot. Combat too is a bit messy in Valhalla, though it does have the visceral brutality excuse as being a Viking fantasy game. But I do want to see something more refined. Maybe buckle down on the attack, parry, and dodge format to create a simplified For Honor system, or even revert back to the counter-kill animation-based system of older AC games. What we have now isn't bad, but there's a lot to improve on. Beyond these things, there isn't much else to talk about. Overall, I think that while I like the idea of medieval France a lot, I don't want to see AC regress yet more into the fantasy genre. I liked Valhalla a lot, but it's far from perfect. And I think a mid-game like this before what the leak says is coming in 2023, a China-based game, would be a good way to polish up what made Valhalla fun. Mostly though, I want to play an Assassin's Creed game as an assassin, or a Templar if it's done right. That's all I really want, and I think medieval France could be a perfect way for AC to return to form. But this is Ubisoft we're talking about, so I won't hold my breath. What do you think about this leak's ideas? Please let me know in the comments. But until next time, thanks for watching.